world is very complicated place. It is becoming more and more complicated. Irrespective of what position we are occupying, we are always under the stress. Please become spiritual. I'm not saying you should become religious. For me, I really don't care, whether I go to the temple or a mosque or a gurudwar or a church. I can pray anywhere, but become spiritual.
Most of the time, we live in the taker's mode. Mujhe ye chahiye, I need this, I need that. And let me tell you, most of the time when I run on Marine Drive, Anil Ambani is there. He's got a huge house just next to my little house. And even if you ask him, he needs so many things in his life. Yeah. So there is no limit to what we want in our life.
I'm extremely grateful to Ajit Knowledge Forum for giving me this opportunity. I would like to talk primarily on 3 issues. First is COVID. Our life is actually revolving around COVID, especially COVID third wave. And I would like to talk about the future of healthcare. Then I would like to talk about what everyone should do to take care of their health. These are the 3 issues I will deal with in the next few minutes. First of all, I am convinced that 100 years from now, historians, when they write the history of the world, it will be revolving around 2 topics, 2 areas, 2 chapters. One is before COVID, that is BC. Other one is after COVID, that's AC. The world we are going to walk in after COVID is going to be dramatically different than the world we lived before COVID. Every aspect of our life will undergo dramatic change. Now, everyone is concerned about the 3rd COVID wave. Are we going to have a 3rd wave? Yes, certainly we will have, but it will not be anything like what we have gone through in the past. It will be dramatically different. Large number of people can be tested positive, but it is very unlikely that they will land in the hospital or in the ICU. Primarily because most people, adult population is already vaccinated and rest of them are already infected. Because 2nd COVID wave, Delta wave, whether we know it or not, has infected most of us. So we are likely that we are naturally immune to COVID. But that doesn't prevent us from getting the infection. So we need to be careful with the mask and the social distancing and everything. Now, as a senior doctor, I would like to tell you all that compared to all the countries in the world, developed and developing countries in the world, India has done the best in managing COVID compared to any of the wealthy nations. On what parameter I'm talking about? I'm talking about only one parameter which matters the most. That is number of people who got infection and number of people who died. At the peak of COVID 2nd wave, lakhs of people were getting infected according to the data we read in the newspaper. It is not that only that many people got infected. If newspaper says 1 lakh people got infected yesterday, I'm sure there are at least 20, 30 lakh people who got infected who are not tested. Compared to the number of people who got infected and number of people who died, we have definitely done the best. Now, there may be some doubt about maybe we are underreporting the mortality. Okay, you multiply the mortality 5 times. Doesn't matter. Still, we have done the best. I have no doubt about it. Every aspect, what could be done, it has been done. Now, some of you may be unhappy, the shortage of oxygen, the plight of common people running around with oxygen cylinder. Any country in the world, whether it's a US or a European countries, if they had the number of COVID patients what we had, believe me, they would have gone through the worst problem than us. So we should be proud of the way our government has handled, our doctors, nurses, medical technicians, woken up to the reality and handled this disease about which we knew very little. Now, in terms of why we are in a better position to face the third COVID wave, if at all it happens, we are extremely well prepared from the point of view of hardware, that is the PPEs and the ICU beds and the ventilators, everything we have sufficient number. But more than that, the medical professionals during the first wave had no idea what we are dealing with. And more than anything else, we were scared of our own life. So you can just imagine if the doctor is scared of his own life when he's treating the patient, how well he will take care of the patient. Today, things have undergone dramatically shifted. Today, I can all of you visualize hospitals where everyone in the hospital running around with the PPEs, covering their face, covering their head and the whole body, which is a dreadful sight for any patient walking into the hospital. Today, you'll be surprised. Doctors are so sure of how to manage the COVID virus. There are senior pulmonologists who are the people who know everything about COVID. They go to COVID ICU without PPE. They go to COVID ICU with just a N95 mask. And these are the senior pulmonologists who are past the age of 60. And that is a degree of confidence doctors, nurses, medical technicians have in managing the COVID waves. And you all can rest assured that if there is a COVID wave, we are in a phenomenal position to manage. Because most hospitals have converted all their beds as COVID ICU bed if required. And that transition doesn't take us much long time. So I just want to give one message that we should, everyone, if they have a symptom of COVID or if they have a symptom of any disease, whether they get unusual stomachache, fever, cold, cough, at least for the next 3 months, get a COVID test done. Even if it is not suggestive of COVID, get the test done. But we don't need to test everyone like we have always been doing. If somebody is symptomatic, we have to get the test done, because one of the important parameter for the best recovery is the early initiation of the treatment. If you can start the COVID treatment early, the chances of success is extremely high. Now, about the vaccination. Believe me, as a senior doctor, I can tell you that the COVID vaccine is a medical miracle. It is not vaccination against COVID. It is vaccination against death. So if you have taken only one shot of COVID vaccine, please take your second dose. And whenever the government allows the booster dose at the appropriate time, please get your booster dose. There is no debate about the efficacy of vaccine, because every country has proven, especially in the United States, large number of people were getting admitted to the coronary care, to the medical ICU, COVID ICU, but very, very, very few fully vaccinated people landed on the ventilator or in the ICU. So today we are not debating about the efficacy of vaccine against any COVID version, even the Omicron. It has been proven now in England. They have studied that the vaccination protects. So this is something you have to convey to your friends. There are a large number of people still skeptical. I just want them to read the history. How did we eradicate smallpox? Smallpox lasted for a few hundred years. How did we eradicate? How did we eradicate polio? All because of the medical miracle called vaccine. So please do not have any doubt about the vaccination. Please do not doubt about the safety of vaccination. When millions of people across the world have received vaccine, it is safe. Now, life after COVID, assuming we may get a third wave, then what about the life? Believe me, COVID is not going to go away for the next at least 2 to 3 years' time. It will become endemic. It will come in clusters in some parts of the country, some parts of the world, but it will not remain like an epidemic, because by that time we are all immune to it. And it is also the interest of the virus that we don't die, because if we die, the virus also dies. So gradually over a period of time, the viruses become less lethal to the host. So that doesn't mean that we can do away with the social distancing and the mask and the isolation. These are very, very important. Now, coming to the next topic I want to discuss with all of you is about India and the healthcare. I know we are not entirely happy with the quality of healthcare most people receive. But I can tell you that within the next few years' time, India will become the first country in the world to dissociate healthcare from affluence. India will prove to the world that the wealth of the nation has nothing to do with the quality of healthcare its citizens can enjoy. And my gut feeling is that it will happen within the next 5 to 10 years' time. Why I am confident that it will happen? One is the government policies. We are in the process of creating infrastructure to produce doctors, nurses, medical technicians, not only for the country, to the whole world. The way we are building the medical schools, because as a country, India cannot make strategies for our requirement, because Indian doctors are known for the passionate care across the world. There was a study conducted by one of the business schools in US, which has shown clearly that in US, that patients who are treated by overseas doctors, mainly Indian doctors, lived longer than the patients who are treated by American doctors. So we are considered as healers of the world. We are in great demand. So whether we like it or not, we have to train the requirement for the world, because you will be surprised. The global healthcare and wellness industry is a $6.8 trillion industry. It is the largest industry in the world. We spend more money on healthcare than the food. And this industry can be fueled only by doctors, nurses, and medical technicians. And we are a privileged country which can train all of them. And they have the brand of being the healers. So we will have adequate manpower. Now, our biggest problem, the missing link, is people do not have the cash money to pay out-of-pocket expenses for the healthcare. But that is going to change. That is going to change with the financial intermediaries, a sort of apps which try to sell different types of health insurance program. Now, it may look as if they are not going to make a big difference, and it may appear as if they may not sustain. Like recently, one of the the payment company launched a health insurance for 1 lakh rupees with a premium of 999 rupees. If you pay 999 rupees, they will cover you for 1 lakh rupees. And 1 lakh rupees can cover most of the commonly performed procedures. Like this, there will be large number of financial intermediaries coming up. Now, it is for sure they will lose money. They lose money in the first year, second year, third year. Amazon lost money for nearly 10 years, but they will build the market share. And these financial intermediaries one day will be playing a major role in ensuring that everyone can afford to pay for the healthcare, may not be from their pocket, through the financial intermediary. So the government's policies are also helping these the financial intermediaries to come as a bridge between the providers of healthcare and the deserving patient. And this will make a huge impact. And the other major transformation which will happen in India is the digitization of the healthcare. COVID has brought about these changes at least 10 years before its due time. COVID has made doctors adopt online consultation in few weeks, otherwise it would have taken years. I can tell you that in the next few months or years, whether you want to consult a doctor for a cold, cough, or a headache or a cancer, you will see the doctors online first. And if the doctor is, if you're happy with the way doctor has conducted, given you the advice, then you will see him or see her personally. And that transformation will happen, wherein virtually all consultations will happen online. And you would have seen your parents having thick file of medical reports. Wherever they go to the nursing home or a hospital, they carry this thick file, which no doctor can decipher. Believe me, all those medical record content will be in their mobile phone. And all these elderly people will go to the doctor's office, ask the secretary to scan the QR code, get all the medical records, and see what happened to the patient in the past. And this is the reality. People will have their medical records in their own mobile phone. And smart software which doctors will be using in the outpatient will eventually make smarter diagnosis than doctors. It will give differential diagnosis. As a doctor, when I give my opinion, before I tell the patient about what is my final opinion, I can get the opinion of 3 or 4 other senior doctors. If they saw the same finding, what they would say. The idea is that patient doesn't have to go to another clinic and another doctor in another city to get the second opinion and third opinion. As a doctor, I can say that my opinion is this, but other doctors with the equal experience or more experience say this, and these are the 3 alternatives. Now, I have no doubt that is going to happen, and also something else is going to happen. Within the next 5 to 7 years' time, believe me, doctors will be asked to take a second opinion from the about the treatment from the software before starting the treatment. We will be legally mandated saying that get a second opinion from the smart software or an AI tool before starting the treatment. That is not going to make us less important. That is only going to make us safer for the patient, and it will put less pressure on us, saying that, okay, this is my diagnosis, but this is what other doctors also say the same thing. So all this transformation will happen very fast, because you'll be surprised. 5 years ago, the Chief Justice of Uttarakhand High Court gave a judgment saying that in state of Uttarakhand, no doctor can prescribe the medicines on pen and paper. It has to be on a digital platform. But unfortunately, it couldn't be implemented because a digital platform was not available to everyone. But it is a matter of time. Once pen and paper disappears from the healthcare will become safer, healthcare will become affordable, and healthcare will become accessible. This is the reality. Coming back to the technology, most of the diseases like diabetes, heart failure, kidney failure, joint problem, which requires a constant care, will shift from visiting to the doctors to online platform. We have over 10,000 patients who are treated online for diabetes. And our diabetologists have shown that the patient who opted to see them once a year and rest of the time, the doctor's team comprising of diabetic nurses and counselors, and these patients can contact the doctor anytime. Whenever the blood sugar is up and down, they send a message and our team responds. And at the end of 1 year, they have shown that the patients who are treated online diabetes, their blood sugar level was much better controlled than the patient who opted to visit the doctor every time the blood sugar went up and down. So all this transformation, mainly because of the outcome and the convenience, large number of patients will embrace online healthcare, which will dramatically transform the patient experience. Now, coming to individuals, what the individual approach towards healthcare will change. Today, every individual, fit young individual to the elderly people, see the doctors when they have a disease, when they have a symptom, when they are unwell. That will change to the preventive care. Like recently, there was a lot of headlines about a young athletic actor, very strong looking, very popular personality, he unfortunately died, had a premature death, and there was a lot of debate. Why this happens? This happens every day in India. Young, fit people who believe in extreme exercise, like running on a treadmill, running a marathon race, without having undergone any of the basic tests on the heart. This will continue to happen. For me, if a 35, 50, 40-year-old man says, I run 100 miles, I run 10 miles without stopping, I can run a marathon, I can run on a treadmill for hours together, I can only tell him that that's very good for you. But if you ask me whether you are a fit person, I cannot say that unless you give me 4 reports. I need the basic blood test. I need a ECG. I need an echocardiogram. And I need a CT scan of the heart. If you show me all these 4 reports, and if it is normal, then I will tell you that you are a fit person who is fit enough to do any extreme exercise. Otherwise, stick to very non-stressful exercises, like a brisk walk to suit your age. But if you want to go for extreme exercise, it is very, very important that you go through these three or 4 basic tests. And every individual, irrespective of how fit they are, at least once in 2 years, they should go for a blood test, abdominal ultrasound, and they don't need to get a CT scan every year. You get a CT scan once in 10 years or 15 years, that's all. Because CT scan can show even 10%, 20% blockages in the coronary arteries. There is no other test other than angiogram which can show. Then the doctors can advise you that you have early disease and you need to be careful. And these are the things you can do to prevent a major heart attack. So essentially, the concept of healthcare should change from presenting to the doctor when you have a symptom is to present yourself to the doctor, telling the doctor, look, doc, I have no problem, but I want to go for a routine checkup. That is a culture change we need to bring about so that every heart problem can be diagnosed before the heart attack happens. Every cancer can be diagnosed before the cancer spreads to multiple organs. Every disease of the kidney or the liver can be either stopped, prevented, or at least controlled so that it won't spread and it won't cause problem. All these things can be done today just by going to your neighborhood diagnostic lab. Today, India is privileged to have thousands of diagnostic labs virtually in every street. Just spend 3 or 4 hours on the day after your birthday, go to these clinics, get the basic test done, and once it is okay, you're all right for the next 1 or 2 years. So this is my advice to all of you. And also, I would like to strongly recommend all of you to change your watch to a smartwatch, which can give you the heart rate, it can give you all kinds of parameters, because this is going to be the future. We all are, God willing, we are going to live till the age of 90 or 100. At some point of time, as we grow older, we may become diabetics, or we may have some other high pressure or some illness. It is natural. Now, all these wearable gadgets, I would like you all to be familiar with that, so that eventually when we become diabetics or hypertensive or whatever, these wearable gadgets will tell you where you are at that point of the time in the day, because they can make a massive difference in the way patients are treated. So our whole philosophy is we are now looking at shifting our patient care even inside the hospital. We are running a pilot wherein when a patient gets admitted to the hospital, we are giving a BP apparatus, digital BP apparatus to the patient relative or attendant. And we train them how to check the blood pressure. And that machine also gives the pulse rate. So they are given the chart to record patient's blood pressure and the pulse rate. They are given an oximetry to check the oxygen saturation, they record. They are taught how to check the input-output chart of a patient who had a heart operation. So they understand the significance of how much patient drinks and how much urine output should come. Then they are introduced to every medicine what is given. So they are made to give the medicine under the all these are done by under the supervision of nurses. Why these transformation we need to do? We need to do it because when you reach 85-year-old, who can be the best person to take care of you other than your spouse? Look at your face, your spouse knows whether you're happy, unhappy, whether you're well or unwell. And they are the ones who can care for you. But they need to be trained. And it's a great opportunity for us to train them. So when they go home, they train their children and the friends and everyone. So this is not a rocket science. It can be done. So the whole idea is that we have to change like there was once upon a time, our government had the plan to screen every Indian for a high blood pressure. But we couldn't carry out because it would have costed us few 100 crore rupees. Now we are doing a pilot in Bangalore. We bought 10 BP apparatus for a few schools. And we trained the teachers how to record the blood pressure. Some teachers knew because they were hypertensive. And they in turn trained their 10th standard students how to check the blood pressure. Once they did a perfect job, they sent the BP apparatus to the student's home, and student was expected to record the blood pressure of the parents, grandparents, uncle, aunties, neighbors, keep the BP apparatus for 10 days and check 100 people's blood pressure. Then if the blood pressure is high, they just tell them, uncle or auntie, please go to see a doctor. Your blood pressure is high. It may not be very accurate, but it's a good idea for you to check. We can technically screen the whole country at hardly any cost, because a digital BP apparatus costs 2,000 rupees. So essentially, we are living in a privileged country with a privileged opportunity, privileged time, where all these tools are available everywhere. So we are in a phenomenal position to use those tools and make a huge, huge difference. And coming back to the my suggestion for all of you is the importance of yoga. As a doctor, as a senior doctor, I would like to tell you that if there is one thing which has made a massive difference in my life, that is yoga. As a young medical student, I was an exercise fanatic. I used to compete for Mr. KMC and Mr. Medico, all kinds of, they had big muscles. I held the senior brown belt in martial art. And about a few years ago, I started developing pain in my knee. And it went on unusually for a few months. And my wife kept noticing, and she started telling me that I should start doing yoga exercise. And I told her that yoga is only for old people. I don't think I need to go for the yoga, but unfortunately my knee pain got worse. And I was becoming very conscious of climbing the steps. So I was forced to get trained by a yoga instructor. Believe me, I did the yoga exercise only for 2 months. My knee pain completely disappeared. Today, if you ask me whether it was a right knee or a left knee, I have no idea. I've forgotten about it. And as a person who was always exercising, I always had some pain, some part of my body. But I am used to it. But once I switched over to yoga, believe me, for days together, I can go on without having pain in any part of my body. So it is a different experience altogether. So I'm not against bodybuilding. I still do bodybuilding exercises, but everyone, I suggest everyone, if you want to remain fit, please start yoga exercises. Get a trainer to train you for a few days. You don't need any yoga teacher all the time. Just few days till you get used to the various techniques, so that you learn the right technique, then you can do it yourself. And my last advice to all of you is that, please, this world is very complicated place. It is becoming more and more complicated. Irrespective of what position we are occupying, we are always under the stress. Please become spiritual. I'm not saying you should become religious. For me, I really don't care, whether I go to the temple or a mosque or a gurudwar or a church. I can pray anywhere, but become spiritual. Believe in God. Believe in something above all of us, monitoring all of us, ensuring that there is fairness and there is protection. And this is my advice to all of you. And I'm extremely grateful to you for the opportunity to interact with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for the enlightening words. Health is just a state of body. Wellness indeed is a state of being. Your insightful words have underlined a firm conviction that transformation towards a digitally driven health system is a conscious choice, both individually as well as collectively. To change one's body, like you said, one must change their minds first. Thank you once again. We now open the floor to the audience to share their thoughts and questions. I now request Ajit, roll number 2387, Hoysala House, Dr. Vinay Chandrasekhar to kindly take over.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Akshay. I'm Dr. Vinay, sir. I'm an ex-alumni from Science School, Bijapur, passed out in 1997. It's indeed pleasure to moderate this session with you, sir. It's like interviewing the head of our family. It's as
Thank you.
I've been in this institution for the last 12 years. I'm working as a consultant pediatric surgeon and a transplant surgeon in a pediatric liver transplant and a kidney transplant. I have seen myself how this institution has grown over a years. Yearly, it's growing in a bigger and bigger, and you are able to cater high-end healthcare to most of the patients at an affordable cost. So that's amazing what we've seen, sir. So once you are ready, I'll take upon few questions which are in the chat box, sir. Once you are say okay, I'll just
Yeah, I'm at your service, Vinay. Please.
Okay,
Tell me.
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. So there is a question from one of the cardiologists who is also an Ajit. So basically, as a, traditionally we have all been taught, and also we all practice the how important it is to develop a patient doctor-patient relationship, which helps him to build a trust within the patient and which allow the disease to cure. So with most of the advances now happening and with the most of the things moving to a digital platform, and what do you think the ultimately going to happen with the doctor-patient relationship and the what you call as a compassionate healing, a compassionate care and the healing touching hands, what will happen to all that, sir? I think that's the one of the question asked by the cardiologist.
Vinay, I do miss the power of touch. That is something very, very important. But in terms of touching the lives, I am in a much, much better position today than what I was maybe 5 years ago. I'll give an example. Today, before I traditionally patient walk into my office, today most patients see me online. And it is an amazing experience. I'll give you a few examples. There is a 75-year-old lady in Calcutta. I did the surgery on her 30 years ago. And after I shifted to Bangalore, every year, she used to come and see me for 5 minutes every year. She is old. She didn't, it's a great task for her to prepare herself, getting a family member to accompany her and plan the journey, reach Bangalore, stay in a hotel, then see me, get all the tests done, then go back. Her entire year was revolving around planning her trip to Bangalore. And when the COVID happened, she couldn't travel. So when she sent me a mail, I said, don't bother. I will see you in WhatsApp. All you have to do is morning 10 o'clock, I'll ring your number, you take the call. And she was sitting in the bedroom. When I called her, when she could see my face in her phone, she started crying. Then I said, what happened? Why are you crying? She said, I spent last 15 years, my entire life was spent around planning my trip to Bangalore. Today, I'm sitting in my bedroom and I'm talking to you. I can't believe this is possible. And this is the reality. This is what technology will do. That is one part. Patient comes to the hospital, gets the operation done, and to see the patient in the ICU, I needed to go to the ICU physically. And I can do it once a day or twice a day. Today, I see them every few hours in my mobile phone. I go to bed at 11 o'clock. Before I go to bed, I do the ICU round sitting in my bedroom. I am up at 4:30 in the morning. First thing I do is to do the ICU rounds. Before I come to the hospital, I have finished my rounds. I know exactly what is happening with the patients. And after 5 days, 4 days after the surgery, patient goes home. 24 hours later, my secretary will send them a WhatsApp message that if you are free, doctor would like to see you. And patient is sitting at home and they link me to the patient's house in a WhatsApp. Every patient has a WhatsApp. They connect me to the patient in WhatsApp video, and I talk to the patient, and I look at the wound, the chest wound or a leg wound or whatever. I ask them how the patient is doing, talk to the patient's wife. I am actually inside their house, and the patient is at home 2 days after he was discharged. What is more intimate service than the actual interaction with the family whenever they want, right? So the power of touch, of course, it is lost because of but what you get is 1,000 times more powerful than the power of touch. And this is happening today in our own country at virtually no cost. So this is what the real transformation of healthcare is about. Believe me, it is a patient in any part of the country, 10 o'clock at night, if they have a headache, they're not going to say that, let me get up in the morning and I'm going to see the doctor. They have to just touch one button in the phone, a nurse will come online, and when the nurse comes online, she will have the entire patient medical previous history in her mobile phone, and she will know who she is talking to. Then she will ask, what is the problem? When the patient says, this is my problem, if the nurse feels that there is nothing wrong, then she will say that, okay, just take some painkiller and go to sleep, and tomorrow morning I will call you. Or if she thinks it is something serious, she'll say, not to bother, in 2 minutes, doctor will come online and the neurologist will speak to you. And this is not talking about the futuristic possibility. It is a current reality. And all these are happening because of the digitization.
Yes. Oh, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. And I myself have witnessed, I think you have introduced a lot of things in our own center. I mean, Adi is one example of it, where everything has moved digitally, and hardly, I mean, most of the information regarding the patients we get on an hourly basis, and the overall, the holistic care of the patient is taken care of. So thank you very much, sir. So there's another question, is a non-medical professional. So basically what he wants to know is, no doubt you are a very busy medical practitioner and a surgeon. I myself have seen so many patients you see every day. Patients are waiting for you. Medically, in our profession, you are very busy, and also you have other roles to play. You're taken up a lot of other responsibility, especially in the social platform, and you are a key person which the government looks after, ask for in many policies. How do you manage time? You're also a successful entrepreneur. So it's amazing when Dr. Kalsu read about all your biodata. So it was, I mean, it was more, the time was more than what speech you gave, sir. I think he had, that was the amount of achievements you have made. So how did you manage all this? So all of youngsters and alumni of our students wants to know, how do you manage the times? And how do you get the energy for all this?
Vinay, I love people. That is the first thing. I can, every patient at my age, any patient coming to me, I have my children or the grandchildren of the age or my parents or whatever, I can relate to them. That is the most important thing. So and I enjoy whatever I am doing. That is very, very important. Every man or a woman should choose to do what they enjoy. Of course, it's very easy for me to say, a lot of the people may not have the privilege. But if you work long enough, you will have the privilege of doing something which you enjoy doing. That is the most important thing. The other thing is, medical profession, unlike other profession, is an amazing profession wherein you bring about changes in few hours. You transform people's lives in few hours. I'll give you an example. A blue baby, 1-year-old blue baby, turning blue every few minutes. You are going to take the baby to the operating room. You talk to the parents. They are crying and the baby is taken to the operating room. You reassure them. You do the operation. You do the correction. In 4 hours, surgery is over. Baby is in the ICU. Then we call the parents to see the baby. And typically the mother comes first and the father stands behind. And sometimes mother looks at the baby and says, we tell them that, look, this is your baby, and the baby is fine. She looks at the baby and says, this is not my baby. Then we tell them, no, this is your baby. Why is she looking so fair? She was so dark before, now she's looking fair. Is it really my baby? Then we tell them, yes, this is your baby. Then she will touch and say, ask us a question. Will she always remain like this? Then we tell her that, yes, this is her true color and she's going to remain like this forever. In 4 hours, you have transformed the child's life. You have changed the entire family's outlook for the future. Having a baby who was falling sick every other day to a normal baby. Which profession in the world will give you the privilege of transforming people's lives every day, so many times? So this is the beauty, and this is what makes us jump out of the bed, come for work every day.
Thank you, sir. So really what you said was amazing. I mean, we all in the medical profession definitely experience, all of us have this experience. So there is another question, sir. I think basically is from a non-medical background. He's an architect and IT professional. So he's been in that profession for almost 30 years. So it's generally, there is a preconceived notion that most of the healthcare sector and healthcare, it's been mainly doctor centered. So most of the things are looked after by doctor. Over last few years with the technology and all, the healthcare industry has grown at a very rapid pace. So you would like to know, for a youngsters who are from a school, who is in the IT, who is a non-medical, how we can be of, where else he wants to start. He wants to start and get involved in the healthcare sector. So he wants to know advice from you, sir. What benefits he can bring about in the healthcare industry?
First of all, every breakthrough in healthcare delivery is not done by the doctors. It is done by the scientists. It is done by engineers. It is done by the people, various fields of areas, people who have nothing to do with the healthcare. They are the people who brought about all those changes. And most of the equipment we use, which are saving millions of lives, are really not even developed for the healthcare. They were developed for other purposes, mainly in the past defense, whether it's a CT scan, MRI, or a laser, all these are defense tools. So essentially, everyone contributed to the so-called modern healthcare. No single profession can take the recognition or that walk away with the award that they are the people who brought about the changes. A true disruption in this industry will only happen if outsiders get into the industry. Like I was talking earlier about the financial intermediaries, all the fintech companies. They are the ones who are going to change the way healthcare is delivered, because they are going to empower the poor people in isolation are very weak, but together they are very strong. We are a country of 1.3 billion people, and they are in a position to bring all of them together, collect a small amount of money from individuals on a monthly basis, and give them a phenomenal health experience. And experience, talking about the doctor-centric, I can tell you, healthcare in India or any part of the world is not delivered by doctors. It is actually delivered by the nurses. They are the ones who are ultimately responsible for the outcome in healthcare. They are the ones who stand on the bedside after the heart operation, 12 hours at a stretch, and make sure that the patient is taken care of and the patient goes home safely. As doctors, we come, we do the operation, then we discuss with the nurses and hand them over the patient. Doctor cannot stand with the patient for hours together because they have to do some other surgeries. They have some other work. So technically speaking, healthcare is managed by the nurses. And no single individual, even in healthcare industry, can take the credit for the outcome. I'll give an example. We have somebody called perfusionist. You may not even hear them, that there is a specialty called perfusionist. They run the heart-lung machine during the heart operation. And entire life of the patient depends on their skill and their attention and their passion. They are the ones who keep the patient alive during the heart operation. As surgeons, we are only technicians. We cut and stitch, and we are concentrating on our work, while these technicians who run the heart-lung machine make sure that the patient get adequate blood and the oxygen and everything else and keep them alive. So one mistake from them, you have a patient who will not wake up. He is brain dead after the operation. And this is how important they are. And they're all unsung heroes. Outside world they only look at us as the people who make the difference. But in reality, we are essentially running the orchestra, wherein there are different people contributing in their own way.
Very nice.
So we hog the limelight, unfortunately or fortunately. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
You made it very clear that how the healthcare is delivered. So I think everyone is important at the end of the day to get the better out of the doctor. So there is another question, sir, quick question. So there are a lot of healthcare, herbal healthcare products that supply the protein products. They claim that there will be weight loss. They're going to get you the supplements along with the weight loss. Can they be helpful? Then somebody has asked, sir. So
yeah, I do not want to comment because I don't have any knowledge, and about the areas where I have no knowledge, I do not want to. But I would like people to be very, very sure before they take these products, because sometimes they can hurt. If you don't get the benefit, it's okay, but make sure that you don't get hurt in the process. Yeah.
So there's the last question from a doctor who works in a second tier cities. He's an orthopedician. So he's very amazed and touched upon the success the Narayana Health has happened, and amazing that how you were able to deliver the high-end complex cardiac procedures at an affordable cost. You made healthcare to all these needy people both accessible and affordable. He sees a lot of patients, and several times he has to defer them just because of the cost factor, though he has a setup to do the procedures, but unfortunately because of the cost factor he has to turn away several patients. How can in a second tier city this model can be replicated? That's what he is asking us. In other specialty, it's not about the ortho, so I would like to know in other field also how you can replicate this model in a second tier cities.
Sure. You see, let me explain about my job description. I have a very interesting job. My job is putting a price tag on human life. I'll explain to you how this job works. Every day I see 60 to 100 patients sitting in this chair. Good number of my patients are little kids sitting on a mother's lap. And I examine the kid and I tell the mother that your baby has a hole in the heart. He requires an open heart surgery. She has only one question: how much it is going to cost? Nothing else, only one question. She is not going to ask, is it a serious operation? Will he recover? How big is the scar? And how many days he will be in the ICU? No questions. How much it is going to cost? If I tell her that it is going to cost you 2 lakh rupees or 1 lakh rupees, which she doesn't have, she is going to go away and the child is not going to survive. And this is the price tag on the child's life. This is what I do from morning till evening, putting price tag on human life. This is what every doctor in every developing country does from morning till evening, putting price tag on human life. 70 years after independence, if society legally allows people like us to put a price tag on human life, this is the greatest human tragedy. It is a human right violation. But we accept it. Why this is happening? This is happening because I wouldn't say we are all bad people or whatever. We think that this world is made up of various components which cannot be molded or which cannot be changed or reorganized. We accept the world as it is, not as it should be. So essentially, if we go deep down and see whether we can change things, it can be changed. Like, I'll give an example. I left England in 1989. I think it's about 32 years now. The first patient I operated in BM Birla Heart Center in Calcutta paid 1.5 lakh rupees for a bypass grafting. That is 32 years ago. Today, we do the same operation for 1 lakh rupees or 1,20,000 rupees for the government scheme patients. Tell me what was costing 1.5 lakh rupees 32 years ago. Today is costing nearly half of that. Nothing. So how it all happened? All this happened because large number of doctors, nurses, technicians, healthcare professionals, they said, that's it. We are not going to accept it. It has to change. So when I thought about a concept called Yashaswini in the state of Karnataka, and I presented to my colleague doctors who are running nursing homes, exactly what you are talking about in different parts of the Karnataka state. 400 hospitals and the doctors came forward saying that we are willing to do the operation at the cost price. So you change the rules. Then we approached the government, and the government was gracious to accept and agree to become a reinsurer. Just by paying 5 rupees per month, 4 million people could get any surgery done in state of Karnataka in any of the 400 network hospitals. And at the end of 12 years, 1.3 million people had varieties of surgeries, and over 1.5 lakh people had a heart operation. All this happened because some crazy doctors like me came out with the concept, and the government was crazy enough to accept it and launch it and agree to become a reinsurer, and it happens. So we should really think that we can mold the world according to what we want. And there is nothing like nobody can say it cannot be done. So essentially, this is what we want all the young people to think. Don't accept the world as it is. You may fail, doesn't matter. Half the things what I try, many things we try doesn't work. Something works. So essentially, I have no doubt, once again, I started off saying that India will definitely become the first country in the world to dissociate healthcare from affluence. We will prove to the world that the wealth of the nation has nothing to do with the quality of healthcare its citizens can enjoy. And we will prove to the world, it will happen. Because when I was a young man in the medical school, everyone said, healthcare is expensive and it will always remain expensive. But one day, India will become a rich country and we all can afford healthcare. But when I grew up, I looked at the richest countries in the world called the United States of America, United Kingdom struggling to offer healthcare to the citizens. That means by us becoming a rich country, healthcare is not going to reach out to everyone. We have to change the vehicle of delivering healthcare. And today we are in a position to do that. And let's make it happen.
Thank you very much, sir. I think your talks are always inspirational. Definitely a lot of our Ajit fraternity has enjoyed your talk. Thank you very much, sir. I again hand over the mic to Mr. Akshay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. I now request our Reverend President, Shri Gopal Hasur, sir, to kindly say a few words.
Good evening, friends. I was supposed to speak at the end, but then after listening to Dr. a couple of minutes, because I think I'm told that he has some urgent next. Dr. Devi Shetty, I think, outstanding alumni today. Extremely, extremely grateful to you. Your name itself is the first line of cure. Let me explain to you. A lot of people come to me and say, sir, can you put me across to Dr. Devi Shetty? Once a patient knows that Dr. Devi Shetty is going to see him, the first line of cure always begins. The second thing is that you have become so well known, so popular across the country, maybe across the globe, that a lot of messages in your name do the rounds. I'm sure you are aware of that. Lot of messages. In fact, in one of the messages, I messaged him directly and asked, Dr. Devi Shetty, is it your message? Across the spectrum, people think that what Devi Shetty says is the Veda Vakya. So in your name, a lot of messages keep circulating. We are extremely happy, we're extremely proud that the Ajit Knowledge Forum under the AAA has brought you before us today. I must compliment the AAA and the AKF, the Ajit Knowledge Forum, for all the boys that you have done outstanding work. It was like a conversation with you individually. Let me tell you that. Had it been in an auditorium, probably my mind would have stayed to who is sitting to my left, who is sitting to my right, who is looking on the stage, so on and so forth. It was like one-to-one communication. It was a great conversation that we have had with you, and a very, very balanced, very progressive thoughts that you have had. You are just not a medical man. I'm sure you should become a medical administrator of the country one day. Okay. And wishing you all the best. Narayan Hridayalaya, I am sure Chinmaya and Narayana are always together. In fact, your lineage that you have left behind is helping us to propel ourselves to give better heart care and better medical facilities to the patients who come to us. Thank you once again, and wishing you all the best. And we are indeed indebted to you. Thank you,
sir.
Akshay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Dear friends, Dr. Devi Shetty will be leaving us now as he has to attend another meeting. I once again express our deepest sense of gratitude to you, sir, for addressing us and sharing your thoughts and experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we are also joined by another inspiring personality, none other than Ms. Ruby Ahluwalia, founder of Sanjeevani, Life Beyond Cancer. To introduce the speaker, we have Mrs. Ranjana Katti. Mrs. Ranjana and Mr. Milind Katti are a gracious and charming couple and are well known in the Ajit family circles. Ma'am, over to you for the introduction.
Thank you, Akshay. Good evening, dear Ajits, Ajit families, and Ajit friends. I'm honored to introduce Ms. Ruby Ahluwalia, a senior civil servant presently serving as Principal Financial Advisor to the Central Railways, Mumbai. She combines in her an outstanding officer, a courageous individual, a compassionate human being, and an efficient organizer. When visited by tragedies in life, most ask, why me? And tend to curse their destiny, curse God, and wear a badge of self-sympathy on their chest. But in Ms. Ruby Ahluwalia, our speaker for the second session of the evening, we have a woman of different mettle. Challenged by triple negative breast cancer in 2009, She decided to face it by her inner strength and succeeded in overcoming it through sheer willpower and conviction. Even though she was overcoming her own pain, she was so moved by the pain of others that she decided to work for them as well. That's when Miss Ruby Ahluwalia set up an NGO, Sanjeevani, which promotes life beyond cancer by helping cancer patients from despair into hope. We all know that Lord Hanumana scoured the Himalayas to find the elixir that saved the life of Lakshmana in Ramayana. Similarly, Ms. Ahluwalia's Sanjeevani is an organization that many have begun to depend upon. Ms. Ahluwalia's journey exemplifies the resilience of her spiritual inner and an organizational capacity. Sanjeevani adopts a unique Indian approach to care, which has evolved into some kind of a blueprint for recovery and wellness. It relies on mind over matter, where through counseling and positive actions, mind helps in healing. The idea of employing cured beneficiaries of Sanjeevani to in turn take up the role of caregivers is innovating and brilliant. This helps in scaling while retaining quality and empathy in service. Thus, Sanjeevani by now spread out its activity to 17 cities and has enriched the lives of over 3 lakh plus patients in just 7 years of its founding. Ms. Ruby Ahluwalia is someone with an enviable bouquet of multiple talents, as evident by her paintings and writings. She is also a life coach and a convincing speaker on holistic healing. She was befittingly conferred with the Change Makers Award. Notwithstanding her intense engagement with Sanjeevani, Ms. Ruby Ahluwalia never compromises on her professional assignment. She only puts in extra hours of work to manage her social service commitments and professional responsibilities. Ms. Ahluwalia has a master's in economics and a degree in management. She is recognized for the extensive work she has done in the public-private partnership domain. She has proved her professional excellence in the fields of transportation, trucking, railroad industry, as also in budgeting, business planning, operations, and management. Ms. Ahluwalia has chronicled her journey in her book, Fragrance of a Wild Soul. The book describes a moving account of her 3-year ordeal of cancer, which was overcome on account of her own strong will and encouraging support from her family and friends. The book seeks to establish a mind-body connection and elucidates the importance of making peace with oneself in life, no matter how harsh the reality is. It evocatively captures her enlightenment and is a must-read for all of us, the Ajit families, and Ajit friends. All of us are waiting eagerly to listen to this uniquely courageous woman and extraordinarily empathetic individual and learn from her as to how she converted a challenge in life into a purpose and make difference in a society. With pride, I now request Ms. Ahluwalia to address us.
Thank you, Ranjana, so much for that very beautiful introduction. And today I have a very, very bad throat and fever, but I had committed, so I thought I have to be here. As Ranjana was mentioning, I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer in 2009. And I was posted in Bombay at that time. And I went to Tata Hospital for my treatment. And my journey of cancer was as terrible or as horrible as you have heard it to be. And I used to wonder as to how would I go through the whole challenge of this treatment and how would I put up with this, which is a very, very aggressive treatment, actually. And at that time, another thing which used to come to my mind is that there are so many other patients who are going through a similar journey or maybe a worse journey than mine, without any of the resources that I had. So, that was one thing which would remain with me every time I would come back from the hospital. And that is something which kept me going as well. So initially, when I was finding it very difficult to deal with the physical and the psychological pain which was there, I thought I need to pour it out. And because unless and until I pour out this pain, I will not be able to figure out as to what is happening in my life right now. And that is how I decided that after every chemotherapy, I will do one canvas. So I continued to do these canvases all through my chemotherapy. And today, when I look back at this series, which I call Towards Satori, it looks like a textbook journey of some kind of spiritual evolvement to me. The first painting which was there was a lot of agony, there was a lot of anger, and there was a lot of confusion in that painting. And the second painting went on to become more of contemplation. By the third painting and the third chemotherapy, I did understand that if I do not accept this experience in my life, then I will not learn what I am supposed to learn through this experience. So all of us, we go through various calamities in life. Mine was cancer, but somebody could be going through a bad marriage, somebody could be going through a divorce, somebody could be having issues with the children. So there are so many calamities which are happening with us all the time. But I think the first thing which is extremely important is to accept that this calamity has come in my life. Because unless and until this acceptance happens, we keep fighting our own internal demons. And we are not able to put up a good fight with the external enemy which has come in our life. So the first thing which is very important is to accept internally that this challenge has come in my life. And as soon as that happens, the energies which are there get consolidated and one is able to put up a better fight. And I learned all this through my personal experience. So whatever I will be sharing with you is not a textbook thing, but a very, very personal experience which has been there. When I was to start I will share this small little incident with you. When I was to start my chemotherapy, I was extremely skeptical as to, how will I put up with this? And I went to see the doctor in the hospital. And he told me that today he's got a round in the children's ward and I should accompany him. I accompanied him for his round. And I saw that there is a 2-year-old baby who was sitting on one of the beds and she was howling. She was like crying very, very badly. So I asked as to what has happened to the baby. And they told me that this baby, she had a tumor in the brain. And when the chemotherapy was given, as a side effect of the chemotherapy, she lost vision in both her eyes. So when she got up in the morning, she's not able to see with both her eyes. And that is why she's not able to figure out what is happening. And she's crying. So I was I was quite moved by what was happening in front of me. And then a young lady came around 30, 35, and she picked up the baby and she started walking. So I looked at her and I don't know what she could gauge from my eyes. She only told me that I am alone here for my daughter's treatment, because when my husband got to know about she having cancer, he left us and now we are on our own. I said, okay. And then she said, but I have kind of totally forgiven him. I was just wondering, where is she coming from? She said, I have totally forgiven him, not because what he did was right, but because I was wasting a lot of my time on anger in dealing with him. And this is not that time. And I want to focus on the treatment of my daughter. And I have forgiven him for that reason. And he's out of my life now. And I stood there wondering that so many of us who want to do this, but find it so difficult to forgive and, continue our grievances against various people in our life for a lifetime. This woman in such challenging circumstances has been able to do this. And then suddenly a 6-7-year-old girl came running, and she held the hand of this lady with some files in her another hand, and she started walking with the lady. I just assumed that she could be the elder daughter of the family. So I asked her, okay, so you are the elder sister of this baby. She said, no, I'm also a patient here. I'm also a patient here, but I've seen this auntie every day. She goes with the baby for various tests. So I decided that I will help her with the files, and I will go for all her tests with her. That day, I learned so much in that 1 hour. Number one, from the baby who was howling, who had lost her vision, from the mother who was so young and was dealing with such a huge calamity in life, but decided to put away, all the irritants which were coming her way. And then this third girl who was just 6-7 years old, who despite being a patient had decided to help this young and small family. So, when I came back home, I was so enriched, and I felt so empowered. When I was telling about this to some of my friends, they teased me that Ruby, ये सब तुम्हारी लाइफ में होता है, इस तरह के incidents. तुम्हें कोई ऐसी चीजें दिखती रहती हैं. But it is not like that. All these incidents, they happen in our lives all the time around us. I think what is different is whether we ourselves are able to give that opportunity to us to learn. These experiences are happening around us, but what is our intent? According to our intent and our attitude, we pick up whatever little learnings we can from the experiences around. And this was a marvelous learning which I had, and I continued with my treatment. It took me around 3 years to get back to my feet. And when I did, and I joined my work back, I thought I wanted to do something. And if I really and seriously want to do it, then I should do it now. Because if I don't do it now, then I will again get into the rut of my work, looking after my family, my children and everything. So I should do it now. And that is the day when I went and registered Sanjeevani Life Beyond Cancer. I was very clear that I wanted to work with underprivileged patients. I was also very clear that I didn't want to give them money or food. So everybody asked me that for cancer patients, if you don't want to give them money and if you don't want to give them food, what do you want to do with them? I said, I will figure it out, but I'll figure it out gradually. I knew that I had gone through this painful experience. I knew that I am educated and this country has invested so much in me to make me what I am today. I also knew that I understood now the gaps which are there in this whole space of cancer care. So I wanted to fill up those gaps. So the first project that we started, which is called Cancer Yogi now, we work only in Sarkari hospitals. So we have people in the OPDs of the Sarkari hospitals where the patient goes, and when he goes inside to meet with the doctor, he gets precisely 3 to 4 minutes actually. And most of the time, the doctor may not even look up and may write the protocol and give it to him. This happens because there is so much of crowd. There are so many of patients. It doesn't happen because the doctor doesn't want to do it, but the doctors are so, pressed for time. And that is also the time when so many fronts open in front of a patient. As to my expenditure on this would be 8 lakhs. I will have to stay here for 1.5 years. Where will I stay? Where will I get the money from? How will I deal with the side effects of the treatment? How do I deal with the emotional trauma which I'm going about? How do I deal, because most of my relatives or my spouse has left me for life at this point of time. So these are the fronts which open in front of a cancer patient. And I wanted people there to be in the OPD to completely handhold their hand and see to it that they get all the financial help through the state government, through the central government, through other trusts which are giving the money to them for their treatment. Because so many forms need to be filled up, so many prerequisites need to be dealt with. So I wanted that. I also wanted that the patient should know what kind of treatment he will go in, what will the side effects be, and how will he deal with the side effects. And that is how Cancer Yogi started. Today, we are working in 17 cities of the country through this Cancer Yogi program. And we have worked with more than 3.5 lakh patients through this program. We've also done a research to know as to what is the impact of this program on a sample size of 450 cancer patients. And it went on for a year. And what we got to know that all the patients said that what we were doing, they really needed that service, but 75% of them said that they could not have carried on with the treatment if this service was not available, which was extremely, extremely encouraging for us. I then realized that the best people to give this help to the patients are the cancer survivors themselves, because they have gone through the pain, number one, they know the cancer care gaps, number two, and they have the right kind of empathy. Third and fourth is that they need an income after they have survived this disease. And therefore, I had gone to the director of Tata Institute of Social Sciences, assuming that he would have a course for them. But he told me that not in India only, but nowhere there is a course which trains cancer survivors to become cancer caregivers. However, if I write a curriculum, he's ready to put it to the academic committee of this. And that is how I ended up writing the curriculum for a 4-month full-time training program, which is now called CanSarthi, and it trains cancer survivors and their relatives to become cancer caregivers. And we have already done 8 batches of this over the past 7 years. I gradually also figured out that immunity has a huge role to play in this game of cancer. And if this is so, then I need to work with the patients on strengthening their immunity. And that is how the third program, which is called Satori, it started, which is now very popular, not only in patients, but amongst doctors as well. And they want to do this program. We also run Can Chetna, which is to create awareness on cancer. I will tell you why. The latest report of WHO says that 1 out of every 9 Indians will go through an experience of cancer in their life, which looks like a huge number. And if every person has a family of 4 at least, which gets affected by this patient, this looks like a huge number of people will get affected. The good story is that more than 85% of the cancers are preventable and they are avoidable. And this is here my passion lies. And this is here my drive lies. That if cancer is a disease which completely paralyzes a family actually for life, financially, psychologically, physically, and 85% of those cancers are avoidable, then why should I not do what I can do to make people understand that you can avoid this experience of cancer in your life? You can reduce the probability of having this experience in your life and in your family's life. Therefore, I started working very passionately on the immunity of the people. And what I figured out, this I would be talking a little bit in detail so that there is a takeaway for you as well, because now we have worked with so many patients and so many people, and the research on this particular program, the outcomes have been so amazing. We have had stage 4 cancer patients who have completely turned around. We have hundreds of patients who have kind of benefited from this. So most of the time, what we think is that if we are able to control the external factors around us, then we can take care of our immunity. Okay, so we crib a lot that the air that we breathe is polluted. We crib that the food that we eat is adulterated. And we basically accuse everyone around us and our environment for bringing down our immunity. What I want to tell you is that forget about the external environment for 2 minutes. Work on the internal environment, because this is the environment which decides your immunity. We talk a lot about why we should not have tobacco, why we should not smoke, why we should not have alcohol, which is right. They are harmful. They do cause cancer. But the fact also remains that these products have been used by humans for a very long time. And everybody who was having tobacco and smoking and having alcohol was not having cancer. But today what is happening is that we live our life, the whole of our life is revolving around a few emotions. And these emotions are stress, anger, anxiety, and fear, mostly. Now, when these are the emotions around which our life revolves, we bring down our immunity through these emotions, and we have put our internal environment already on the edge. And as soon as the tobacco, smoking, alcohol, or anything of this kind happens, we flip and the body crumbles. And that is what is happening right now. Now, there is enough research which has happened actually to show that the way we think and the way we lead our life, it has a huge impact on the biochemistry of the body. But we need to understand what we eat, what time we eat, what combination we eat in, and with what feelings we eat. Extremely important, extremely important. I wish that I'm able to do a detailed session with you on this at some point of time. The second thing which is very, very important is the oxygen that we breathe in. Oxygen is the biggest alkalizer The only problem is we do not breathe deep enough for this oxygen to go in our body in the amount that it is required in the body. So please, if I can request you, number one, most of the time try and sit straight and not sit like this. And secondly, every 1 hour, at least for 50 to 60 breaths, close your eyes and take your breath with awareness. The beauty of the breath is as soon as you become aware of it, it becomes deeper on its own. And as it becomes deeper, the oxygen goes inside and is absorbed by the blood and circulated in the body. So the second thing which we all need to work on is our breath. And the third is the mental constructs, because they are the most important thing. They decide the biochemistry of the body. They decide how much and which hormone will get released at what time. That will decide whether the food that we eat will get digested or will get rotten in the body. So whether it will create toxicity and acidity, or it will become a kind of a boon and absorb the nutrition which has come in. So we need to work on these three things. Although it may sound more like a lecture that I've been doing, but I am so passionate that whatever time I'm giving to you and you are giving to me, I'm able to drive in something. I just want to share one thing with you. I work in Bombay, and my office is on Church. And every day I need to cross the Church Gate suburban station to reach my office. And I used to see this 7-8-year-old boy who used to sit in front of an eatery, and he was just sitting there. And I would every day think that I'll talk to him, but on my mobile only, I was so busy. But one day I saw him that he was picking up something from the garbage bin which was in front of the eatery. Then I just couldn't control myself. So I stopped there and I asked him, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm taking out food which has been left over." I said, "What will you do with it?" He said, "I'll eat." I said, "Okay, so where do you live?" He said, "I live in the subway." I said, "Where are your parents?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Then what do you do every day?" He said, "I just clean up the few shops which are in the subway and I get some money. And at times, if I don't get that money, I come to this garbage bin and I eat from here." So I told him that, all right, so from tomorrow, you'll not do this. I'll come in the morning 10 minutes earlier and we'll have our breakfast together. He was happy. The next day I went and he kind of held my hand, and he was very fond of puri bhaji, took me to a stall which has puri bhaji, and we started doing this. And we did it for a number of days, actually. Then suddenly I again found this boy, putting his hand in the garbage bin. I said, "Abhi kya hua? Abhi to hum log roz saath mein breakfast karte hain, to tum kyun isme haath dal rahe ho?" So he just, pointed his finger like this. And when I saw there was a dog which was sitting. I said, "What about the dog?" He said, "This food is for the dog." I said, "Okay." So he's also dependent on it. I said, "All right." Then he told me कि जब आप मेरे साथ नाश्ता करती हैं, जब रोज सुबह आप मेरा हाथ पकड़ के मुझे उस स्टॉल पे ले जाती हैं, तो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है. लेकिन जब मैं इस कुत्ते को खाना देता हूँ, दे पाता हूँ, तो मुझे लगता है जैसे मेरी जिंदगी बदल गई. He was a 7, 8, max 9-year-old. And I thought, what has he said today? Most of the time, we live in the taker's mode. Mujhe ye chahiye, I need this, I need that. And let me tell you, most of the time when I run on Marine Drive, Anil Ambani is there. He's got a huge house just next to my little house. And even if you ask him, he needs so many things in his life. Yeah. So there is no limit to what we want in our life. But till the time we are in the taker's mode, we are always in the craving mode. But as soon as we get into the giver's mode, we suddenly get into the abundance mode. And as soon as we get into the abundance mode, the energies around us realign. And when people say that the universe conspires to make things happen what you want, it happens through the realignment of the energies. And whatever I'm telling you, let me tell you that I'm sharing my personal experience, absolutely my personal experience with you. So therefore, when I started Sanjeevani Life Beyond Cancer, I feel that if I was living life on this platform before my cancer, I'm living my life on this platform after cancer, because I have now started working with other people, and I'm making an effort day in and day out to empower them in whatever little way that I know, whatever little way that I can. And a lot of people who ask me, how do we empower ourselves? And I always tell them there is no other way of empowering yourself but through empowering others. It's only when you empower others, you yourself become empowered. So this was my little story that I wanted to share with you. And I hope that something happened.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Only by giving is one able to receive more than they already have. Your words have shown us today that illness is not always the end of a gruesome story, but in fact the beginning of a beautiful one. And indeed, healing oneself is always connected with healing others. It is a great act of courage in itself. I'm sure the attendees listening in will agree with this and have thoughts to share. I now request Ajit, roll number 1936, Vijayanagar House, Dr. Girish Kulali to kindly take over.
A very good evening, madam. It was really heart-touching experience that we have heard from you. It is really wonderful that you are doing such a nice and wonderful job to the cancer patient. You being one of the treated, and you have really shared your life experience. Hope that I'm in working in a Bijapur, and I'm a doctor myself. I'll be seeing so many patients like you. Hope everybody be so strong and so caring and so wonderful patients. So we have some questions in the chat box, madam. Can I, with permission, can I start, madam?
Please.
There are so many young athletes like aspiring for civil services. Like we have Dr. Gopal, Dr. Dalwai, Prasad sir, and Jyoti Buddha Prakash. They are in civil service. And many young athletes want to aspire for civil service and want to know your advice to join civil service.
My advice to join civil service is, firstly, the intent has to be very, very clear. One needs to know as to why I want to join civil services, because civil services is not the place where one comes because one wants to earn a living. Civil services is a place where one comes to make a life for others. And I think this should be very clear as an intent. Otherwise, there could be a little bit of disorientation when you come here. And when you come here to make a life, to make lives for people, it gives you so much power, actually. and to be able to use it rightly for the purpose for which it is meant. This intent is very, very important. And to clear the exams, of course, there is no other way but to put in the hard work. And let me also tell you that civil services is not something which one can, sit down and decide ki I will crack it in 2 months. It doesn't work like that. For civil services, you have to study for years, actually, to be able to handle the vast curriculum which is there, and to be able to answer the questions, whether they are in the written exam or in the interview, the way they need to be answered for you to clear the exam. So the intent and the hard work, these two are extremely important, I think.
Thank you very much, madam. One more question, general question from Parveez, that manage the financial things of NGOs.
So it's a huge challenge. Actually, the financial, there are two challenges actually in front of non-profits. That's what I feel. And when I discuss with other people who run NGOs, one is the funds, and the second is the right kind of people who work with you. But I also want to tell you that once you start doing the work, and once you start creating that body of work which people are able to see, then you are never short of money. You will never have too much of money, never ever, I think. But you will not be short of money to do the projects that you are doing. So you are always on a very tight budget, but you are always also able to launch the projects that you want. So one needs to be very careful when one is, designing the whole methodology in which the non-profit works. That is what I believe in, that it should not be extravagant. It otherwise loses the purpose. So I try to keep my budget as tight as possible, and I work around it, and never ever I had to delay a project just because I didn't have the money. Having said that, today, if I'm working in 17 cities, I want to work in one city of every state. So if I'm working in 15 states now and not working in the rest of 15, is because I still have to raise money for that. So I'm in the process. It is a continuing process.